you for joining us for the Raising Global Leaders interview series. Today, I have with us the incredible Debbie Silver. She's the author of Deliberate Optimism, Fall Down 7 Times, Get Up 8, and her most recent book, Teaching Kids to Thrive. Thank you, Debbie, for joining us here today.
You're so welcome.
Okay, so let's get into this interview. I have a question. I want to know how you got started in your field. What was the thing that inspired you to start writing about kids and teaching them intentionally how to be their best in the world that we live in?
It started as a classroom teacher. I was in the classroom for 21 years, and then I was a university professor, and I've also worked with professional development. I also have 5 sons who had different degrees of success in public school. And just from being a parent, a grandparent, an educator, paying attention, what I figured out early on was kids are smart in different ways. We don't always know exactly, what that is in the beginning, but we need to give them every reasonable chance of being successful. And it's personal experience and professional experience, but it's always been my passion. I think I kind of have a gift to being with the kid and just seeing the light go off. And that, to me, is the most incredible gift that they can give us, is that, whoa, just love it.
Yes, absolutely. That's my favorite thing about homeschooling my kids, is seeing that light bulb moment.
Yes.
So I'm so happy that you decided to share just your wealth of wisdom and knowledge with us and writing these books. So I know you talk a lot about motivating students. Do you feel like students today are less motivated than they were in the past?
No. And, I get asked that a lot because I've been doing this a very long time. And people will say, Dr. Silver, do you think kids are different today than they used to be? And my answer is no. I think kids are very much the same. I think the world is different. There's a lot more distractions. I want to clarify for parents, when you're talking about I need to motivate my child, that really is an incorrect statement, because motivation is intrinsic. And it's a choice that people make. Like, I don't let people introduce me as a motivational speaker, because I do as a speaker what I do as a teacher. And then as I try to inspire, I try to challenge, and I try to empower. But in my books, I talk about my own kids who would work tirelessly, in the heat, in the humidity, in Louisiana, where we live, on an outdoor project that they invented for themselves. They set up the rules. They wanted to make it happen without any adult meddling or intervention. But kids, if you watch them play, they're always motivated. It's when they are dependent on the adults in their life that they come in and say, I'm bored. And, I'm in the generation where my parents said, oh, you're bored? Well, let me find you something to do. And I really do think we've gotten into the entertainment industry as parents. We feel like that we're somehow lacking if we let the ball drop, if our kids are bored. And I think that's taken away from them. They need a chance to learn to entertain themselves.
Absolutely. I agree. It's really hard to keep up as a parent. We want to make sure we're checking all the boxes that social media or the media period says that we need to check in order to be a good parent. And so we tend to fill in all their time slots instead of letting them grow and develop naturally.
Yeah, there's an interesting book out there called Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. And it's another deficit disorder, which we don't need to hear about, but he raises some interesting points, because kids don't go out and play anymore. Mm-hmm. Because they are so regimented, or they're latchkey kids for a myriad of reasons, but they're not problem solving. They're not socializing. It bothers me when I hear parents say, we've got a play date. I mean, that is so formal. How about, I'm going to go over and play with Ralph for a little while. And you're like, okay, stay out of trouble, be home at dark. And I realize that the times have, changed that for some of us, but this over parenting, it's making us crazy. It's making the kids crazy. One of the first things I want to recommend to you parents, get off of Pinterest. Stop looking at it. You want an inferiority complex. Oh my gosh. That is parenting on steroids. And, you're bound to look at it and say, oh, I promise you, you're good enough. You are fine.
Thank you. Thank you. We need that bit of encouragement. So you say another thing we do as parents is we always put our kids in activities because we want our kids to be the star kid. And one of the things you say is nothing is as motivating as hard-earned success.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit? And can you talk about how that affects gifted students as well? Like, what if our kids are really excelling in one area? Do we really need to kind of push that hard-earned aspect?
Absolutely. And two of my sons were labeled as gifted. So I'm coming to you as a parent, but also as that educator. My grandma used to say, anything easily attained is cheaply held. And it's true. You think about what it is that you value most that you've accomplished in your life, and I guarantee you it was not handed to you. It was not even something that was easy for you. It was something you had to work, you had to sweat, and in the end you went, I did it. Well, a lot of times we don't allow that for kids. We're so on top of with the stars and the stickers and the sparklies and the videos to Grammy and all of that they never get a chance to just relish in the accomplishment itself, but particularly gifted kids. Because what we tend to do, and what I did as an educator before I knew better, was like, my struggling kids need me. The gifted kids are going to get it on their own. No, the gifted kids are going to get bored. And they need to constantly work towards challenge. And what we do is we make the mistake of going, oh, they got this. And we tell them, you're so wonderful, you're so great. And all of those things undermine their self-efficacy. It also undermines their belief in themselves, because it all goes back to something we call attribution theory. To what do you attribute your success? And we know it's generally one of four categories. You either say, well, I'm innately gifted or talented, or I'm not. I'm lucky, or I'm not. Or, I was in the right place at the right time. The task itself either was easy or it wasn't. Or I was successful because I put a lot of work in this. Or I was not successful because I didn't work as hard as I should. Now, out of those four, there is only one that a child can control, and that's their efforts. So when we're telling kids, oh, you did that because you got your basketball talents, from your dad and your granddad. Well, first, that diminishes the accomplishment of the child. But second of all, what happens when you stop telling them how smart they are, how bright they are? Does that mean they're not worthy anymore? Does that mean they are not a wonderful person? And I did it all wrong. For my two gifted ones, it's like, oh my gosh, you got this incredible brain. It's so easy for you. You never have to study. But here's the thing, Leanna, everybody hits a wall. Everybody hits a wall. And the earlier kids learn to deal with that, the better served they are. And we need to be their models. We need to be the parent that comes in and says, I got a ticket. And instead of going to give that lame police department, everybody else we need to be better models and just say to them, I was in a hurry, but I made a bad decision. I knew that was a risk when I did it. The officer was doing his job. And here's what we tell kids. It's not about the falling down. It's about the getting up. And no matter how badly they do a face plant, and that's not fun. And they're like, that really didn't do. I don't disregard that, but say to them, yeah, that was a tough lesson. But what did you learn from that? And we as adults need to model that. We need to come in and say, well, I didn't get my raise. I gave it my best shot. I didn't get my raise. But let the kids hear us walk through it. Did I give it my best effort? Did I? Because when we come in and start attributing to all these things outside of ourselves, we're giving away our self-control. That's our self-efficacy. And we're teaching kids to do that. So when the kid comes home and says, everybody was being mean to me, the teacher doesn't like me, we can't allow that just to end there. We have to say, well, what could you have done? What could you have done differently? Not that that didn't happen, not that that's not your perception, but what things can you control? And let's make a plan for that. So it's all about.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So how do we, we as parents, we like the sticker charts and we like the all of the positive affirmation because it reinforces that we're doing a good job as parents, right? And so sometimes we struggle with our kids having those like face plants of life. And so how can we as parents give effective feedback to our kids? And is our child's success tied to our parenting, or do our kids have some sort of like autonomy?
Hopefully they have autonomy, but it also, there's a lot of hardwiring that goes on that may not have come from either parent. It may be 2 generations up. But I really am a believer in focusing on what we can control. So if telling the kid you can be anything you want to be, it's a big fat lie. And
Right.
you know it, and I know it. You know, I tell people, what if I decide I wanted to be a horse jockey in the Kentucky Derby? Well, I mean, you can't really see me, but I'm overweight. Not going to happen. There are limiting factors, but here's what I want kids to understand. You can always get better at anything if you're willing to make the right choices and put the effort in. So the stickers, and yeah, I think a lot of parents are tied up into this. I have great kids, therefore I'm a great parent. And the stickers as much for us as for them. What would be more beneficial, or to add on to that, is to say, let the kid reflect. So how did you think you did? And what did you do differently? You know, when they go, I did it. And don't let it just go with a trophy or an ice cream. You say, you did. So what did you do differently? What did you learn from that? What will you do next time? The other thing I want to throw in here is that kids are little sponges. They hear what we say to them, but I don't hear anybody talking about this. Kids listen to what we say about them. We need to be really careful what we're saying when we're talking on the phone to mom, when we're doing a Skype with grandma, when we're talking to our friends. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a parent say, oh, that's my Jimmy. He's so bad. That boy's just bad. I'm going to tell you, he is bad. I'm going, he's going to be, you know, because he just heard you say that. He heard you laugh about that. Yeah. But when they can hear you say to dad or to a significant adult, like, I am so proud of Chandra today. She took responsibility. Her little sister was driving her crazy. I could see the wheels ticking. She wanted to smack her. But I watched Chandra, and she got control of her cool part of her brain. She made an active decision to just let it go. And I cannot tell you, my heart just burst. Now, that doesn't need a sticker. But what you just said that kid overheard, it makes all the difference in the world. Now, you could also say that to Chandra. But if you're one of those parents that's constantly overpraising and you've reared a praise junkie, they're not going to listen to you. This is like when I was teaching. I started teaching as Miss Pace. And I heard a couple of the girls talking one time, and one of them said, well, I don't know if that's any good or not. Go ask Miss Pace. And the other student said, well, that wouldn't do any good. Miss Pace likes everything. So there goes my power with that student. I mean, the student loved me. I love them. But as far as effective feedback, so I want to go back to your question. What should feedback look like? It should be honest. It should be very specific. When you say a word like awesome, that has no meaning for a child. None. It just means I approve. So you need to get really specific, but try to put them in it. You must have felt so grown up when blah, blah, blah. You know, you must have felt so accomplished when blah, blah, blah. Or it doesn't even have to be our feedback. Guys, asking questions is feedback. So what made you just decide to draw that? Wow. Well, that's kind of a different perspective than I usually see. How'd you come up with that? One of my favorite things to say to kids is, how did you know that? And of course, they'll just go, I don't know. I'm just smart. I'm going, well, obviously something's going on there, but they don't always, because I do worry about praise junkies now. What I see is, and this is my own sons, everything is good job, good job, good job. Good job is better than saying good kid, because it's separating the behavior from the child. But I've seen kids that are like, every time the kid does anything, the parents are just going nuts. You know, you breathed in, good job. You exhaled, good job. So every time a kid does something, what you're seeing is, what do I get? What do I get? Now, we're responsible for that. We have done that to them. I mean, our generation didn't do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. There are studies being done that show that the results of overpraising kids is in anxiety when they're in the workplace, and then that praise is removed, where they're not constantly being reaffirmed. They start to get anxious about their performance.
I've seen it with my millennial teachers. I had a teacher that told me, she said, Dr. Silver, I just did this greatest lesson. Everything was like perfect. And I said, what's the problem? And she said, I was supposed to be observed and there was nobody that saw it. And I said, the kids did. But, you know, that is what we've done to them. It's like, if I don't get that outside praise, that's why I talk about in all my books, self-efficacy, getting kids to understand their agency, that they learned to please themselves. It makes them less likely to be bullied. It makes them more likely to try to get up again, to get up more quickly. People that have self-efficacy will try a lot harder, a lot longer, and are more likely to keep going. They have resilience, they have persistence, all the things we talk about. But we have to help them with that. You know, the little engine that could used to be, I think I can, I think I can. Now the little engine is, Mom, come push me. I'm ready. You know. And parents want to go, I don't know why he does it. Yes, you do know why. Because you always have something to say. And it doesn't have to be a verbal affirmation from you. You know, it could just be a smile. I used to write letters to my sons. I would take time. This when they got older. But when they weren't there, I would write a letter telling them specific things that I loved and admired about them. And I would put it in a place where they would find it. And I would never mention it. You know, not what'd you think, or write me back. You know, none of that. But I also did that to every student I ever taught. And I have students now that tell me 30 years later, they still have that letter. Because we're not real good about doing that, you know, to take the time. And I don't mean type it out. I mean, write it out from you. These are the things I value in you. These are the dreams I have for you. Here are the things that make my heart sing about you. And to validate who they are. Instead of, well, you're not like your brother, you know, stop saying that. You know, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said that feedback needs to be honest, that it needs to be specific, and that it can be in the form of a question.
Yes.
Does feedback look different for gifted children?
Well, you're going to be more challenged with gifted kids because they may be one step above you, and it may be the eye roll. I already know that, you know, because that's their claim to fame. And unfortunately, society has taught them that it's best to be first, the brightest. How many gifted kids do you know that will have a seizure if they make an A-? Well, that's not healthy. You know, or they'll make one stray mark on a piece of paper and throw the paper away.
Yeah.
Well, that's OCD, and that is not a good thing. We call that perfectionism. That is the killer of joy. I love Peter Reynolds, who is the illustrator of two of my books. But he has a book called The Dot, where the kid makes a stray mark and then talks about all the things that it could be. And he does a lot of adult allegories that are fables for kids. But that's Peter Reynolds, really good. But I think we need to talk with kids about that. But for gifted kids, it could be, because sometimes they understand their subject. Like if they're doing something on the computer and going, well, I just got this interface to connect. And I'm just like, I have no idea what they're talking about. But I can always say, well, how'd you figure that out? You know, well, what would the point to that be? You know, wow, you know, walk me through your process here. What are you going to do with that? Because honestly, when I say kids are no different, here's what I mean. Kids today are starved for the same thing they've always been. Fully engaged adult attention. Now, here's where I'm going to make some of your audience mad. Turn off the cell phone. Turn it off. That means at night, you have family time and all the cell phones, you just make a stack. At dinner, you make a stack. You turn off the TV. That doesn't need to be your background music. We have become so disconnected and so distracted that kids will do just about anything to get our attention. They always wanted it. They always will want it. And how easy is that to just look at them with your full undivided attention instead of going, okay, yeah, all right. So, you know, just to go, well, tell me about your day. Wow, that must have been hard. Whoa, you know, walk me through that process. But just that adult calmness that we give kids.
Absolutely. Wow, it's something so simple but so impactful.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. How can we encourage self-efficacy in our kids? What are things that we as parents can start doing today?
First of all, encourage more reflection. Instead of, this is what I saw, this is what I think, more of, what did you think? What did you want to do? Where do you see this going? And I don't mean they need autonomy at young ages, because they don't. They need an adult direction, but that's one of them. To build a belief system about them being unique is a wonderful thing, because self-efficacy allows you to say, well, okay, I'm not like the cheerleaders, or I'm not like the football players, but that's okay. I'm who I am. Now, the way you do that is you have to have it. You have to be that model. So if you're that parent that's always like, well, we're going to have to invite this person to that party because, you know, we want to stay in the group, and you are transmitting that message to your kids. But that's more important than staying true to your values. So your best way is for you to develop your own self-efficacy, but to also, you know, talk less, praise less, ask more questions, and help them learn self-control, which in Thrive, we talk a lot about teaching kids to go from the hot part of your brain, the limbic system, the prefrontal, the brainstem, messages they can't control, to move up to the prefrontal cortex, the part they can control. And it's really great when you get to the point with your child, and I've seen 3-year-olds do this. Am I talking to the hot part of your brain right now, or am I talking to the cool part? You're talking to the cool part. I'm like, no, I don't think I am. So we teach them to breathe. You know, we teach them to take deep breaths. We teach them how to regain their focus. We teach them how to you know, survival skills for not reacting so much to life, for being more proactive with life, which is what self-efficacy is. You know, learning to be more in control of self. And that, I don't see that a lot today, and that bothers me.
Yeah. So one of the things that you talk about, as well as you talked about learned helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that, and also explain how we as parents can stop that?
Yes. And, you know, it can come from ethnicity. It can come from a culture. It can come from a home. It can be self-induced. The classic learned helplessness is Eeyore. Oh, no, nothing I do is right. Every time I try to do something. And I'll hear parents say it. Well, no wonder you didn't win. Your last name is Smith. I mean, they're teaching you that things are outside of your control. Now, that goes back to that attribution theory. If you let them say, I failed my test because I have a bad teacher, or because it was too hard, or because I got the B test instead of the A test. If you let them attribute things to outside forces, that teaches them they're helpless over their environment. So when we empower them by saying, you may be absolutely right about that. You know, I had that teacher, she's a snake, but you don't say that, but you're thinking that. But what you say is, okay, so that's really not in our power to change. And whether you got the A test or B test is really not within your power. That was chance. But what could you have done? Now, there are a lot of ways that we can help kids go over a test. You get a little system, and each question they miss, you make them put an answer. Read too fast, misread, didn't work. You know, there's little codes. You can look it up on the internet, or you can write me and I'll send it to you. But you actually go over the test and teach the kids test-taking skills, which a lot of them don't have. You know, a lot of them are ADHD, like me, squirrel, and they're not focused. And so you teach them this is something you can control, and you're going to have to if you want a better grade, if that's important. I'm kind of at the point now where I'd like to get rid of grades and just go on how much further are you now than you were when we started. And for homeschooling, you've got a beautiful opportunity to do that. Just remind them all the time, wow, you know, when we first started doing this, you didn't even know what an adjective is. Now look at you, because that journey, that I did it, that's empowering to kids. And they need the adults. I mean, they have learned so much stuff in their little young lives, and nobody's telling them, look what you've already done. My favorite thing, I was a science teacher, and my favorite thing to tell kids was, most of the things that I'm going to teach you, you already know. You just don't know you know it yet. So I'm going to remind you what you know. But, you know, lots of examples, lots of, and you know, they beat themselves up. Oh, I'm so dumb. You know, you're like, no, you're not dumb. You're not dumb at all. You made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. That's how you get better.
Yeah, that's very true. I love how you said to go over the test and like analyze it.
Yeah.
And say, okay, what did you do here? What did you do there?
And they'll
And
tell you, I misread it, or I got these two confused. And that's just a really good skill for them to have. And, you know, there's an honest answer. Don't know, you know, just DK. Didn't you know the answer? Okay. So next time you might need to change the way you're studying. But so many of the times they have the information. It's just, there's these little things that get them off track. So we can sit with them and say, all right, so you knew it. And it's like one of my sons was diagnosed with learning disabilities. And he was told he would never graduate from high school, by the way. Or his parents were told that. It's my stepson. He has 2 master's degrees. But when he first was struggling, and I'd regrade something, he goes, yeah, but look, I still failed. And I'd say, but you failed better. And I'm not even trying to be sarcastic there. I think we need to applaud that with kids. Because so many of our overachieving kids, if they don't make 100, then that's what the goal is. But now parents have set that goal. I want you to be the top of your class. I tell parents all the time, it is unreasonable to ask your kid to be the best. It is reasonable to ask the kids to do their best. Those are very different. Yeah, but I still didn't win. Yeah, you and 99 other people. But look how far you came. And what did you learn from that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so what are you doing now, and how can people get a hold of you and your work and all of your awesomeness? I'm telling you, you guys need to get this in your hands, in your house, in your kids' lives now. So how can we do that?
You can go to any bookseller, sells my books, just Debbie Silver, like the color, silver. And all of those, you can go to my website, www.debbiesilver.com. You can email me from my website. You can, I do webinars and stuff occasionally, but that'll be on my website, so you could find it. I do presentations all over the world. So you can go to my toolbar where it says appearances. It'll tell you where I am. So if I'm in California, then you can come find me, because usually people are glad to let, you know, parents and educators in. But basically just Google me, Debbie Silver, and I answer all my email. Now, I do travel a lot, and I am pretty random, squirrel, but I answer all my email, and I am a parent. So this is really important to me that, you know, we get this in their hands. I would say, we didn't mention my first book, which is Drumming to the Beat of a Different Marcher. And it's all about figuring out how your kid is smart. Not how smart are they, but how are they smart, to quote Howard Gardner. And then from there, I would go to Fall Down 7 Times Get Up 8, because it has examples both for parents and for teachers about how to model all these things you and I've talked about. I have situation scenarios, and I go, this is good, but this is better. And I'll show you the research behind that. And then also Teaching Kids to Thrive picks up on that, and also talks about the other social emotional learning skills.
Awesome. That's incredible. So I know your website, it's debbiesilver.com. So please go and check out her work. It's incredible. You will be blown away by the wealth of knowledge and wisdom and information. And a lot of these tools are very simple to implement, but they take intentionality. And I know that we can do it.
Right. One other thing, if you want to download my handouts for free, you have to use a login, the secret password. So I'm going to give it to you. It is, I am a teacher. All lowercase, no spaces, IAMATEACHER. Print that in there, and you can download my handouts for free. And so that'll give you, for you concrete sequentials, that'll give you something in your hand to actually use with your kids.
Wow, thank you so much. That's so generous. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Debbie, so much for allowing me to interview you for this series. I know that parents everywhere are just going to be just blessed by everything that you've given. And I'm extremely grateful, not only as like a person that's putting on this project, but as a parent, as a mother, As an educator, I normally am teaching adults, but I also homeschool my kids. So being able to just really understand how much work and effort that you've put behind all of this. I mean, you studied, you've taken classes, you've lived this wonderful life, and then you're sharing it with us. And for those of us who have young children especially, just thank you. We really, it takes a village, and we really need what you have to offer. So thank you.
And thanks for what you're doing, Leanne. Let me know if I can be of any further help, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.